Welcome to day 8 of the Kunnin Orruk's journey to the Atlantic City Open in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So the question is, did I get base colors on Wascop? And I at least got one color on today. And I spent most of the day experimenting with color. You see, orcs tend to be green. And the standard green is a little bit too blue for my taste. I painted enough orcs to at least get over that shade, that tone, that cold green. And I was looking to warm it up a little bit. And I decided to do that with a yellow undercoat on a model. So before I did this on Wascop, blind and unsure of how I was going to approach it, I found a couple of models that I have in the form of underworlds. And I have Headcracker's Mad Mob there. And I took Dakko and Wollop the Skull and decided to take two very different paths using Army Painter's Moondust as the starting base layer and color. So Dakko was up first, and again I started with that Moondust base layer. And what I decided to do next was apply the Army Painter Orc Skin Speed Paint. This is kind of like a green glaze. Very similar to a contrast paint if you run this digital line of paints. And, kind of already when applying the orc skin speed paint on top of the Moondust, I was able to get a kind of a brighter, more vibrant green out of it. You were able to notice it as you're painting. And it was pretty cool. From there, I followed up with a little bit of the Goblin Green from Army Painter to touch on, the kind of raised surfaces of the model. And then I went with a mixture of that and Moondust to get some highlights on the model. And I really think spending the extra time and experimenting with these tonal values on the model was really valuable for me and able to get an understanding of what I need to do with Wascop. So next up was Wollop. And actually, I paired Wollop with Art Skull from Morgoth's Crushers. Art Skull was already based with a desert yellow, and that's kind of like more brown, deeper, burnt goldenrod yellow. And I was curious as to how that would be affected by the Zealot Yellow speed paint from Army Painter alongside Moondust. So Wollop, I used Moondust, and Art Skull, of course, was already based, layered with that desert yellow. And I applied the Zealot Yellow speed paint to both. And then I applied another layer of Moondust to bring up the values on the surfaces of the model, where the crevices weren't. The Zealot Yellow speed paint in the recesses of the model left this kind of like orange color. It wasn't bad. But I wanted to make sure that any of the staining from the speed paint was resolved with another thin layer of Moondust on top. From there, I added a shade of Druchii Violet into the recesses of the model. Let me know if I'm saying Druchii wrong. Druchii? No idea. Let's say Druchii. But it's the purple wash from Citadel Paints, or the shade, if you will. So that went to the recesses, and I'm a big fan of using purple, which is the complementary color to yellow, as a contrast point in recesses. It does this really neat thing. It kind of like makes this brown, and it reacted really well with the orange that the Zealot Yellow speed paint created in the recesses. It looked actually kind of like the orc got into a fight a little bit bruised up. But that's great, because a trick painters often use, at least I'm told, is adding a bit of purple to the model in order to give it life, right? Give it some blood vessels, have some breathing life into it. So from there, I added another thin layer of Moondust, just to separate and cover up the staining from the wash. And finally added a glaze of Scaly Hide, which is this more pallid green, more mixed with white green paint from Army Painter. And the effect is this softer green, warmer. It feels like it exists in a hotter environment. It's almost plant-like. You can tell he probably benefits from photosynthesis. And I think the effect is what I ultimately want in Wascop. This middle green that's not quite this deep, cartoonish orc green. I really like the color, and I think the process helps give life to the model in an interesting way that I don't think I would have been able to achieve in my normal process. So Wascop has Moondust on him. I will continue to develop his skin and flesh tone variants tomorrow. And until then, have a great weekend.